presentation here from our next super stock presenter, Peak Fintech Group. The stock is now trading over the counter, PKKFF, PKK and the CSE. Companies going after a huge opportunity in the fintech space in China. Most importantly, I think what you're going to find interesting is it has significant traction generating revenues. So significant revenues, and the stock is looks like it's trading at a pretty significant discount to its peers. So with that said, Johnson, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll come back. We got some pretty good questions here. So again, everybody, check out the presentation. Make sure to ask your questions and then decide for yourself if Peak Fintech is our next 10-bagger or more super stock. Johnson, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Thanks for inviting me back. Now, let me introduce your wonderful audience to a fintech company that's forecasting to generate $40 million in revenue in 2020, and that's trading at 1 times those forecasted revenues, while other companies, most companies in the space, trade at 10 to 15 times revenue. Now, over the past 3 years, our revenues have grown from 1 million in 2018 to 11 million in 2019 to the 40 million that we're forecasting this year. The reason why we're growing so fast is because we're solving a problem in a space with huge potential. So let me start by telling you a little bit about what the problem is. Now, there's over 100 million small businesses in China, and just like anywhere else in the world, those small businesses have a lot of trouble getting credit, getting loans to manage their businesses. Now, typically what they'll do is they will knock on doors of the banks blindly and hoping that they'll get approved for a loan. But they've come to realize that that's not working. Now, at the same time, you have thousands of financial institutions, including those banks, who are also blindly going around trying to find the right businesses to lend to. So essentially what you end up with in the commercial lending space in China is you end up with a blindfolded matching game, if you want to call it that, between small businesses looking for loans and lenders looking to lend to them. Now, how do we solve that? We figured the best way to solve this issue would be to create an ecosystem, a lending hub, marketplace, whatever you want to call it, where those small businesses come together with those lenders and everybody gets matched up using data. Now, the way we went about doing this is we've contacted these small businesses. We went to them and we said, hey, we understand you're having issues getting credit for your business. Why don't you do this? Give us access to your information. So they allow us to plug directly into their accounting software. We pull data on a periodical basis. We have complete visibility into their operations. We also ask them to give access to their bank statements, anything else. They also authorize us to pull information from public sources, private sources, anything that a lender would want to know about their business. They give us access to that. Now, by the same time, what we do is we went to the lenders and we said to the lenders, hey, we understand you have issues finding the right businesses to lend to. All you have to do is sign up on this ecosystem and enter your specific lending criteria. So the lenders can be as specific as they want. They all have their own lending criteria. They can enter the revenue, the minimum revenue that a business needs to have, whatever cash conversion cycles, whatever information that they will normally calculate, they enter this information, and the ecosystem does the matching based on analytics and artificial intelligence. So, in summary, what our value proposition is for small businesses is we tell the small businesses, hey, you know what? You don't have to go knocking on doors anymore. You basically just sit back. We bring the clients to you. We pre-qualify you for loans. It's a free service, and you have many options to choose from. By the same token, what we tell the financial institutions, hey, you don't have to search for the right business to lend to. All you have to do is enter your lending criteria. The analytics will allow you to minimize the risk of lending, and you get to grow your loan portfolio. We also have a value proposition for brokers, which I'm going to get into a little bit later on in the presentation. Now, in theory, that concept made a lot of sense, but we knew that in order to convince the banks and financial institutions, we would have to provide them evidence that this system works, right? So what we did is back in 2018, we created our own financial services subsidiary called Asia Synergy Financial Capital. And what we did with Asia Synergy Financial Capital was that we put our money where our mouth is. So essentially, we went out there and we started giving loans to small businesses in the city of Wuxi in China, based on the analytics and the system that we put together. So we had less than 2% loan defaults. We were very successful in what we did, and we generated about $1.6 million in revenue in 2018. That was the first year of operations for the lending hub in China. Now, what happened with that is now that once we had this information, we had the statistics, the data basically to back what we thought was possible. We went to the financial institutions and we showed them the information, and they began to buy in. So that allowed us to expand their services. We created a couple of additional subsidiaries to better service the marketplace, and the lenders and financial institutions started to buy in. So the demand was established and the company began to grow, and we generated over almost $12 million in 2019. Now, naturally, the next step for us would be growth, right? So we had the concept, we proved the concept, we established demand for the service, for the product, and now it's time to grow it. Now, how do we go about growing the product? How do we go about growing the service and expanding our operations? Now, we were put in touch with a company called Jinshar. Jinshar is a loan brokerage platform. And what Jinshar did was they started in 2017, and they approached loan brokers, who, by the way, play a pivotal role in the commercial lending space in China. The small businesses that I mentioned before, realizing that they were striking out when they ventured on their own trying to get loans, a lot of them started turning to they call them lending aid companies in China, but we know them here in North America as loan brokerage companies. So what Jinshar did was Jinshar went to those loan brokerage companies, and they started offering, they made a value proposition to those loan brokerage companies, telling them, hey, you know what, you have relationships right now with 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 banks and lenders, and if you get a lead and the lead is not a match for those 3 lending partners that you have, then you end up wasting the lead. So what Jinshar did was Jinshar recruited a whole bunch of financial institutions, similar to what we did on the lending hub side of things, and they recruited a whole bunch of financial institutions, and they told the lending aid, the brokerage companies, they said, hey, instead of basically just gathering all of this information and trying to see if it matches with your lending partners, why don't you submit this lead through the Jinshar application, and you will have a much greater chance, because there are so many more lenders on the Jinshar application, you'll have a much better chance of actually gaining a commission and not wasting your leads. So at the height of the Jinshar platform in 2018, they were very successful. They had over 40,000 loan brokerage reps using their application, and they forged relationships with over 2,700 loan brokerage companies in 31 cities across China. And in 2018, there was 15 billion RMBs worth of loan requests submitted to the platform. Now, Jinshar had a problem. They had a very, very good concept made specifically for the loan brokerage companies, but they lacked the back end to properly match the loan leads and the loan requests that were submitted to the platform. So what ended up happening was, although the platform, the application was very popular, their success rate was very, very low. I think they had about a 5% loan matching success rate, because the lenders they weren't being specific enough in terms of the criteria that they were putting in the platform. There are a number of reasons for why they weren't successful. So what we did was we acquired Jinshar at the end of 2019, and we are now using this platform as the main contributor to the growth of the company. So we integrated the Genstar platform in April of this year, and Genstar started to pay dividends. We started to see a lot more action coming through the lending hub. And what we want to do in 2020, what we started to do in 2020, is we started to convert a lot of the loan brokerage companies that Genstar has relationships with. We started converting those into what we call Genstar service centers. So our objective in 2020 is to go from 3 cities that we were in 2019 to be in about 20 cities by the end of this year, and that will help us achieve our forecasted revenue of 40 million. Now, growth and expansion beyond 2020. Obviously, there are plans to grow the business beyond just the 40 million in revenue that we plan on having by the end of 2020. There are several opportunities that we're currently working on. For instance, in the city of Jiangyin, this was the second city that we started to offer our services back in 2019. We partnered up with the city itself, and we are developing, with their help, a concept called a financial services center. The concept behind the financial services center is that we're now going to have 25 banks, 25 to 30 banks who operate in the city of Jiangyin, who are going to be using the lending hub application as the main engine behind their lending activities in the city of Jiangyin. So we're inviting small businesses throughout the city of Jiangyin to sign up and to qualify for loans from those 25 to 30 lending institutions. Now, this financial city concept is something that we have the intention to replicate in other cities across China. We also have opportunities for specific industries. Just like we did something in 2019 with supply chain in the city of Jiangyin, we're looking at doing specific applications, adjusting certain applications, I should say, for the automotive industry, car dealerships, truckers, and heavy machinery. There are a number of industries, specific industries that we're looking at right now that will give additional growth to the company. Another exciting project is the e-commerce portals. As I'm sure most people know, e-commerce is huge in China. You think of platforms such as Alibaba, Tmall, Jingdong, Pinduoduo. Some of the largest e-commerce portals in the world are all in China. And we're looking at an opportunity right now to do business specifically with distributors who sell products to those online retailers and on 3 specific online portals. There'll be more news about that in the coming weeks and months if we're able to reach an agreement with some of those portals. Finally, another opportunity that we're looking at is taking this concept and expanding it beyond China, right? So the issue that we're solving with small businesses having difficulty getting loans, getting credit for their businesses, this is an issue that is not limited to just China, but that is something that happens all over the world, in Europe, North America, South America, and the Middle East, you name it. So there are opportunities down the line for us to expand our services to other markets. Now, let's get to the interesting part. Now, as I mentioned before, we are a company that is trading at 1x forecasted revenue. Listen, Jack, if that's not a bargain, then I don't know what is. So when you look at peer companies in the fintech space, again, as I mentioned before, 10 to 15 times revenue. We're sitting right now at barely 1x revenue. We think that this is an opportunity basically for people to get to know the company and understand the potential behind the growth of the company. We are listed in Canada on the Securities Exchange on the symbol PKK, and we're listed also on the OTCQX on the symbol PKKFF. Now, we also have plans to graduate to get to larger exchanges. Both here in Canada, we're looking at potentially getting on the TSX, the big board, and potentially getting on either the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange in the US within the next 6 to 12 months. That's the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to leave it to you, Jack, for the question and answer period.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, we got a bunch of questions here. Let me see. Okay, actually, let's start with the questions that came in earlier, and then we'll go to the live questions right after. So we got an interesting question here from Martin asking, how easy is the process to bring back profit or money from China?
That is a good question. It's actually, let me start by saying that there's a misconception about how difficult it is to get money out of China. But there is a clear process. If you follow the guidelines set by the government, there are no issues to get money out of China. In fact, we started the process, and we will be looking to do that within the next 12 months. Certainly.
Okay. Oh, Johnson, go back to that slide earlier. I think you closed out your slides. The second to the last one, which had the comps. It's a good slide. We should keep on the screen because I think that's very compelling.
Sure.
Okay. We got a question here. Safraz, I guess, is if I'm pronouncing it. He's asking, are you still on target to achieve annual revenue target of 40 million? What are your plans regarding debentures maturing in December?
So to answer the first question, we're definitely on track to achieving our forecasted revenue. The debentures, most of those debentures have been converted, but if for some reason they are not in the money by the end of the year and they're not converted, then we will look to refund the debenture holders if that's what they desire.
Okay. Joel is asking, I don't know if he's asking, are you going to list in China? I guess the stock.
Yes. We are looking at listing on one or more of the Asian markets. Right now, Hong Kong is a possibility, Shenzhen and Shanghai as well. Obviously, we'll have to meet certain listing criteria, and we figure that if we continue to progress the way we have been progressing, we should be able to list also in China. I would say within the next, maybe not within the next 12 months, but certainly within the next 18 months, we should be able to list in China.
Okay. John is asking, what are your goals for next year? And what about India, which represents a country with enormous potential for fintech?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, India is a very interesting market that the solution would fit right in. Plans for next year is just to continue to grow the business and explore some of the opportunities that we just mentioned during the presentation. There's a lot of room for growth. China, just the Chinese market itself is, there's no other market in the world where you have over 100 million businesses and over 1 billion consumers, right? So China is a huge market for us. If we limited our services to China alone, the amount of revenue that we could generate in China alone is 10-15 times what we are forecasting, easily what we're forecasting to generate this year. But in addition to China, yes, we do have plans basically to eventually expand the business, and India is certainly a market that we would be looking at as well. Yes.
Okay. Actually, a follow-up, a live question coming in from Mo. He's asking about expansion to Europe and Middle East. I guess following along the same lines here.
Absolutely. Again, our focus right now is China. We want to make sure that we are successful first and foremost in China, which we're proving right now that we are successful in China. But eventually, yes, we will be looking at other markets. North America, because our head office is here in North America, certainly the Canadian and US market is something that we would be looking at. Then we would be looking at other markets such as India, the Middle East, and Europe as well, yes.
Okay, so Mo is asking also, any plans to uplist to NASDAQ, and can you reach 1 billion? I don't know if he's asking about market cap or revenues. Either one is good. And how would you?
I'm sorry?
I guess I'm asking, how would you? He's asking, can you reach $1 billion, market cap or revenues? And my question is, how would you, how would you be able to, what are your plans to scale? Can you scale to $1 billion revenues, let's say?
You know what? Like, I mean, it's really all about revenue and profitability, right? I mean, the amount of revenue that the business is able to generate, how profitable you are, that will dictate your market cap. Well, obviously with a reasonable multiple, which we feel we're obviously not getting right now. But if we're able to get a reasonable multiple, it all comes down to revenue, right? And our ability to generate revenue in China, I have to be careful here, in terms of the proper word that I'm going to use, but we're looking at a market of 100+ billion small businesses. The revenue that we're generating right now, the 40 million that we're talking about generating right now, is with about 25,000 small businesses that are part of the ecosystem. That represents less than 0.2% of the total market. So that gives you and we're just talking about China here. So that gives you an idea in terms of the potential for growth that this company has. So I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. We got Mohan asking, how do you compare to the fintech solutions of Tencent and Alibaba?
Okay, you know what? Most of these fintech companies are focused on consumers. We are one, if not the only one, that focuses solely on small businesses. So our approach really is to help small businesses. Huge market. It's been neglected. Obviously, when people look at China, they look at consumers, right? You're looking at 1.3 billion residents in China. So obviously it's an attractive market. If you can sell product, financial product or anything else to those 1.3 billion residents, you go ahead. So there's a lot. The business world in China, small business in particular, has been neglected. So this is a bit of a niche for us. It's a niche, but because it's China, it's a niche with over 100 million potential clients. Okay. So the main difference between us and those other providers, fintech providers.
Okay. Camille is asking, are we finally done with private placements and complete at 138 million shares out? Will there be any more dilution?
You know what? Like, I mean, I would want to say yes, but everything that we've done, right? Like, I mean, we raise money to take advantage of opportunities. Now, if we're able to generate 40 million in revenue this year, it's because we raised the capital and we needed fuel, right? So we had to go out there and get the fuel to allow us to do that. Now, if we have an opportunity basically to go from a 40 million run rate to, the gentleman before was asking a question about $1 billion. Now, some of the opportunities that we're looking at, particularly if we get into the e-commerce portal, and all of a sudden we're looking at not just thousands of businesses, we're looking at potentially getting millions of businesses. If we have to get additional capital to do that, I think it's a fair trade-off. Like, if you're looking at a company that's able to generate, instead of 40 million, you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, but you need to raise a couple of $1 million, $5 million to do so. I think it's a reasonable trade-off.
Okay. Mo is asking, what is the institutional and insider ownership in PKK?
The institutional, we don't have any. Well, that may be one of the reasons why our stock is so undervalued right now, is we really don't have any institutional buyers into the stock at the moment. That's one of the reasons why we are getting out there, trying to make sure that more people, prospective investors, learn about the company, the potential behind the company. As far as the insider ownership, we're looking at roughly 10. Last I checked, I think it was 10%, around 10% ownership by insiders.
Okay, let's see here. And I guess, okay, so we asked the question about how you compare with Alibaba, Tencent. Okay, so I'm not sure if I asked this question, but Jude was asking, who are your other competitors in that SME lending space currently?
There are a few companies that do both. In the SME space, let me see here. Well, in Canada, you're looking at Canadian companies. There, I would say a company like Lendify is something that would be similar to us. In the US, perhaps Lending Club. Again, all of those companies are a little bit different than we are. Lending Club, I think they're more of a peer-to-peer lender, but they do business loans as well as consumer loans. There are a few names in China as well, but again, focus solely on small businesses the way we do it, and gaining access directly to their data from their accounting software. We haven't really seen any company that does that.
Okay, let's see here. Any other questions? All right, we got time maybe for one more. Okay, Jonathan, I think we're out of questions. We got a lot. Actually, there's quite a few questions for your first presentation here. So, okay, everybody, thank you for joining us for today's live stream. We're gonna have we'll be back. I think Jonathan will have you back probably in about 2 weeks or so. Hopefully, we'll have some news.
Oh, of course, yeah. There will definitely be news to talk about. So, thanks again for the invitation, Jack. Thank you to your wonderful audience, and I look forward to being invited back soon.
Definitely, yeah, we definitely are going to have you back in about 2 weeks. And again, thank you everybody for joining us, and see you in the next live stream.
Okay, thank you.